product, you're going to want to cut the hole for the screen. On the edges, you want to have a way to secure the screen, usually a piece of wood right there on the line but on the back side, so that when you screw your screws in for the screen mount, it'll go into something secure. Just drywall is not enough. At this point, I'll go ahead and I'll flash the cutout sheet. Here you can see the cutout sheet for the TTG Classic. It can only be mounted in one way. Next, you see the cutout sheet for the TTG Upgraded. It's mounted horizontally in most applications. It can be mounted vertically, but if you do that, you can only do one product per screen. Alright, we have the screen hole cut out, little notch down at the bottom. It's just to make it easier for the wires to get through. You can cut the whole bottom if you like, but it's nice to leave this nice and tight so that when you set the screen in, everything stays level. Alright, we just have the screen loosely placed in here, and I went ahead and put some strips of wood right here and here, just so I have something to securely mount into once we get there. I'll show you the back. Just some random bits of wood I had that will allow screws to firmly mount this screen. So next step's going to be to remove this faceplate. We do that at these top Allen grub screws. They are 1.5 millimeters. You just loosen them up and then this faceplate comes off. Doesn't want to come off just after the top ones, might have to do the bottom ones too. They're right under there. There we go. Now that that's loose, faceplate comes off. You can see our mounting screws here. Okay, to mount this screen, you want to go ahead and use a pan head screw. It'll fit down in there. You don't have to use all four, but you can if you want. 2 is usually sufficient. Once you've got your screen securely mounted, you can put your faceplate back on. I like to apply a little bit of pressure while turning the Allen grub screw. Once you feel that it tightens up, you don't need to make it very tight because you risk stripping the screw out. But once you get it snug, go ahead and do all 4 corners and it won't come off. Okay, once you have the screen installed, if you have access to the back of the screen, you can wire it up back here, or your other option is to remove the screen, wire it outside of the wall, and then reinstall the screen. Basically, your power connection is here. It's got an in and an out. It doesn't matter where you plug it in if you have a single unit. If you have a unit that is running a daisy chain, then you would keep them both. These are your flowmeter connections. This is connection 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are your valve connections. 1 starts at the right, goes to 4 to the left. And just in case you forget, everything is labeled on the board. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be your 24 volts. Your positive and negative here doesn't matter as long as both sides are the same, so red, black, or black, red, black, red. Either way is fine. Right down here will be your connections for fob stops. Again, from right to left, line 1, 2, 3, 4. This 2 port here is not used. So we'll go ahead and we'll wire up a 1 valve connection on this screen. This is a valve, and this is a flow meter. Your parts may look different, but they both do the same thing. The valves are directional. Somewhere on the valve, you will have an arrow. This valve has the arrow right here, which means the beer needs to flow from the keg on this side out to the faucet on this side. Your flow meter is not directional. This can be plugged in any orientation, doesn't matter. However, you always want to have your flow meter on the keg side of the valve. Here's a fully assembled valve and flow meter assembly. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and wire this up. You'll notice that your flowmeter wire is white, while your valve wire is black. Keep that in mind for when you're wiring up your screen. Once you strip the wire, you'll notice there are 4 different wires inside the flowmeter wire. Yellow, black, blue, red. We will not be using the yellow, so you can go ahead and cut that off. And then strip about 1/8 of an inch of shielding off the black, the red, and the blue. And I'll do that now. Once you have the wires stripped, you can twist these individual wires if you want, but it's not necessary. As long as all the strands make their way into their respective holes on the green connector. Observing the board, we can see how we need to wire the green connector. The T is the symbol for ground, that would be black. The plus is the symbol for positive, which will be red. And the 1 will be blue. So from the top to the bottom is black, red, blue. Or, looking at the green connector, from left to right will be black, red, blue. You'll also need a small flathead screwdriver that will allow you to tighten down the posts for each wire. Again, black, red, blue from left to right. After you've tightened down your wires into the connector, I always like to make sure that they're nice and secure by pulling on them a little bit, making sure they don't come out. Once you are sure they're secure, go ahead and plug them into the board in their respective place. This is line 1, so we'll make sure we plug it into the far right. Our valve connection will use an 8-port green connector. And again, our valve 1 will be all the way to the right, plugging into the board like that. At the end of your valve wire, you'll have 2 colors, brown and blue. It doesn't matter which way you put them, but it's good practice to make sure that once you've started a pattern, you might as well keep it just so things look good. Again, once you've made the connection, ensure that they are secure by giving it a little pull. Alright, we're at the back of the screen again. We're going to go ahead and connect our valves. Connection 1 would be at the right. You want to make sure that you firmly push the connector all the way to the bottom of the pins, like that. Very secure. Give it a little pull, looking good. Give this one a little pull, looking good. Okay, our next is going to be our power. Power wires are pre-made power wires. These ends will plug into your screen, while this end will plug into your transformer, and this end can daisy chain to another screen. One thing to remember when daisy chaining screens is one transformer can power up to 4 valves. The number of screens does not matter. They use a minimal amount of power. Most of your power is being used by the valve. So again, 4 valves per 1 transformer. If you have a screen that is using 4 valves, you'll then be using 1 transformer for that screen. You will not be daisy chaining. If you're using, say, 2 valves between 2 screens, you can power both those screens off of 1 transformer. Since these wires are pre-made, we'll just go ahead and plug them in now. Okay, plugging in the pre-made wires. One connection go to the far left, the other to the far right. Never plug this into the middle. And if you're only going to be using 1 transformer per screen, you can remove one of these wires, the one that would daisy chain to the other screen, just so things are neater behind here. So that's all the wiring that's required for the back of the screen. Once you've done that, you can take your entire bundle of wires, maybe tape them together, and at the back of the screen here will be an area that you can use a zip tie to zip tie your wires if you'd like. It's not necessary, but it does keep things neater. And once you've got that all together, we can put the back on. I'll do that now. Okay, once you have the back of the screen in place, you can use the supplied nuts to secure the back of the screen. These don't need to be tightened down very much, just hand tight. In the event that you need to service the screen, it'll make it easier to take these nuts off later. Last and definitely not least, This bottom connection is your network connection. I don't have a full network to set up for the example, but this is where you would connect your network wire or RJ45 wire that would go back to your network switch that would then connect to the server for our system and or any check-in areas for the system. Our system uses a local area network that we like to keep separate from the rest of your location so that we don't have any communication errors between any of your equipment and our equipment. Now it's time to turn our screen on. The way we do that is we plug our screen into our transformer. Then we plug our transformer into a 110 outlet. And note, at this point, we prefer to have our transformers plugged into a backup power supply. And what that does is basically protects all of the equipment from surges and will allow the system not to suddenly lose power. So if we did not provide you with a backup power supply, please make sure that you have one in place. Okay, might be kind of hard to see, but you can see that our system's booting up. And we are now at the welcome screen. At this point, please see our next video on how to properly configure your screen.